My roommate loved wearing a masquerade mask and doing provocative live streams from our dorm room. At first, I didn't think much of it. She constantly borrowed my clothes, copied my hairstyle, and even imitated the tiny details of my appearance. Since we were roommates and had similar body types, I assumed she simply liked my style. I had no idea she was building an entire identity around me. And even worse, she was preparing to make me take the blame for everything she did. In my previous life, I was dragged into the street, stripped of my clothes, and publicly accused of being a homewrecker. I screamed that they had the wrong person. Nobody listened. A man who had lost his entire life savings because of Haley suddenly charged toward me. The first stab came so quickly that I barely felt it. Then another. And another. By the time he stopped, I had been stabbed 11 times. I collapsed onto the pavement as blood soaked through my clothes and the world around me began to fade. The man stood over me, his face twisted with rage and despair. "You took every penny I had," he spat. "And I never even got to see your real face. You deserve to die." As my vision disappeared, everything finally made sense. Haley had never been borrowing my clothes because she couldn't afford them. She had been using me as her shield. The mask. My clothes. My name. Even the university information she casually revealed to her viewers. She had built an entire fake identity around me while I unknowingly stood directly in the line of fire. And I had been foolish enough to help her. Then, I opened my eyes. A blinding flash of crimson filled my vision. When it faded, I was standing inside our college dorm room. My heart stopped. The familiar desk. The half-open wardrobe. The textbooks piled beside my bed. Everything was exactly as I remembered it. Then I heard a familiar voice. "Summer, did you hear me?" I slowly turned around. Haley stood beside my closet, holding one of my dresses against herself. "Can I borrow this?" she asked casually. "I don't have anything cute to wear for my stream tonight. I'll give it back as soon as I'm done." My breathing stopped. For several seconds, I could only stare at her. This was impossible. I looked down at my hands, then around the room. The memories came crashing back. The blood. The knife. The screaming crowd. The man's furious eyes. My own body lying helplessly on the pavement. I had been given another chance. And judging from the dress in Haley's hands, I had returned to the exact day when everything had begun. In my previous life, Haley had constantly borrowed my clothes for her provocative dance streams. When she first started, she had acted embarrassed. She told me she was struggling financially and needed extra money for tuition and rent. She claimed she didn't own anything nice enough to wear on camera. I felt sorry for her, so I agreed. Every single time. I thought I was helping a friend. Instead, I had handed her the perfect disguise. Because whenever Haley put on my clothes, covered her face with that silver mask, and turned on her camera, everyone assumed they were looking at me. She wasn't simply borrowing my wardrobe. She was borrowing my identity. Summer. Haley waved her hand in front of my face. "Are you deaf?" Her voice snapped me back to reality. I looked at her, then at the dress. All the anger I'd carried from my previous life suddenly surged to the surface. "Get lost." Haley froze. The smile disappeared from her face. "Summer?" I stared at her coldly. She had probably never heard me speak to her that way before. "Why are you being so mean?" Before I could answer, Chloe, our other roommate, immediately jumped to Haley's defense. "Seriously, Summer. If you don't want to lend it to her, just say so. There's no need to be such a jerk about it." Haley's eyes quickly turned red. Then, almost as if she'd rehearsed it 100 times, tears began rolling down her cheeks. "Summer, I know I'm poor. I know I can't afford pretty dresses like yours." Her voice trembled. "I only asked because I wanted to look nice, get more viewers, and make enough money to send something home to my family. If you didn't want to help me, you could have just said no. You didn't have to scream at me." In my previous life, those words would have made me feel guilty. Not anymore. I slowly stood up. Then I walked toward her until we were standing face to face. "You want to borrow my dress?" Haley hesitated. "Fine." Her expression brightened for half a second. Then I continued. "Take off the mask." Her smile vanished. And show your real face on camera. The room went completely silent. You wear my clothes, hide your face, and casually reveal our university and my journalism major to your viewers. I stared directly into her eyes. Your username is literally my name, Summer. I gave a bitter laugh. What exactly are you trying to make your followers believe? Haley's lips parted, but no words came out. You made us promise not to tell anyone about your streams. Fine. We kept your secret. I pointed at her. But now everyone on campus is whispering about me. My voice grew sharper. People think I'm the one posting those provocative videos. You get all the money and gifts. And I get the rumors, insults, and humiliation. Haley's face went pale. And can you at least wear my clothes properly for once? I glanced at the dress in her hands. You always pull down the straps and leave the top half unbuttoned. My eyes narrowed. What? Is it physically painful for you to keep the neckline where it belongs? Chloe looked annoyed. Summer, that's enough. But I wasn't finished. My eyes landed on the tiny beauty mark drawn on Haley's chest. It was an imitation of mine, exactly where mine had always been. I pointed at it, and that. Haley instinctively covered it with her hand. You even drew a fake beauty mark in exactly the same place as mine. Her face turned white. Haley, I leaned closer. Do you really think you can hide behind that mask forever? For a moment, nobody spoke. My sudden outburst had completely stunned her. Then Haley burst into tears. Real tears this time. Although I couldn't tell whether they came from hurt or fear. Chloe immediately crossed her arms. Summer, back off. Haley is just trying to make a living. Cut her some slack. I looked at her. Her struggles aren't my fault. I paused. But the rumors destroying my reputation are definitely hers. Chloe rolled her eyes. I tilted my head. Actually, Chloe, do you know what kind of people die first in horror movies? She frowned. Who? People like you. Her eyebrows shot up. The ones who always try to play the savior. I gave her a cold smile. Why? Because they keep defending the wrong person until it's too late. Chloe's face darkened. Fuming, she grabbed Haley by the arm and dragged her toward the door. Come on. Haley looked back at me through tear-filled eyes. For just a second, I caught something beneath her wounded expression. Fear. Then the door slammed shut. I stood there in silence. My hands were trembling. But this time, it wasn't from fear. It was anger. Haley and I had always had remarkably similar figures. If she wore a mask and one of my outfits, anyone who didn't know us well could easily mistake her for me. And in my previous life, she had turned that resemblance into a weapon. She wore my clothes. She hid behind her mask. She flirted with men on camera. She called her viewers babe. She promised dates to whoever sent her the biggest gifts. And whenever a conversation became too personal, she moved it away from the streaming platform. At the time, I thought she was simply trying to make money. Now I knew better. Every little thing she did had been pushing the consequences toward me. She had been building a trap around my identity, and I had unknowingly helped her tighten every knot. But this time, I knew exactly where the trap was, and I had no intention of stepping into it again. I never knew exactly what Haley discussed with the men who watched her streams, but I noticed the changes. She suddenly started spending money like water. Designer handbags appeared on her bed. Luxury jewelry arrived in neatly wrapped boxes. Expensive shoes and clothes piled up in our already cramped dorm room. She had gone from worrying about tuition and rent to casually carrying things that cost more than a semester of college. I could only assume she was taking huge amounts of money from these men by promising them whatever they wanted to hear. A relationship, a private meeting, a chance to finally meet the mysterious woman behind the mask. Then one day, Haley handed me a luxury designer bag. Summer, go to this address. She smiled brightly. I set up a birthday surprise for you. In my first life, I had believed her. That was my mistake. The address led me straight into a nightmare. The wife of one of Haley's married viewers was waiting for me there, surrounded by several other people. The designer bag in my hands became the evidence they needed. Her husband had bought expensive gifts for the mask streamer, and everyone believed that streamer was me. Haley had copied my hairstyle. She wore my clothes. She had even copied the beauty mark on my chest. To strangers, there was no difference. They tore my clothes off in the middle of the street while I screamed and begged them to check my identity. Nobody listened. Then the man Haley had scammed out of his life savings found me. He called me Summer. I desperately told him he had the wrong person. He didn't listen. The knife plunged into my stomach once. Twice. Again and again. 11 times. I died trying to convince a man that I wasn't the woman who had stolen his money. This time, I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. That very afternoon, I went to a clinic and had my beauty mark permanently removed. When I looked at the tiny patch of skin afterward, I felt strangely relieved. One piece of Haley's disguise was gone. Then I went straight to a salon. I want a completely different color, I told the stylist. Something dramatic. A few hours later, I walked out with fiery red hair. My usual dark hair had been transformed into thick, vibrant waves that cascaded down my back. When I returned to the dorm, Haley was sitting at her desk. The moment she looked up and saw me, she nearly fell out of her chair. Summer. She jumped to her feet. Why didn't you tell me you were dyeing your hair? I walked past her and stopped in front of the mirror. Honestly, I almost laughed. The red suited me far better than I had expected. I ran my fingers through the voluminous waves and smiled. Why should I have to tell you? Haley stared at me as though I'd committed some unforgivable crime. Because we're best friends. She pointed at my hair. You're supposed to tell me so we can match. Then she stomped her foot. I hate looking like twins with people, especially with you. I slowly turned around. Especially with me? That's not what I meant. Really? I copied her exact posture, then deliberately stomped my foot. Haley, you're guilt-tripping me on purpose. Her mouth fell open. For a second, she looked like she wanted to scream, but her scheduled live stream was starting soon. There was no way she had enough time to run to a salon and dye her hair to match mine. Next time you change your hair, you have to tell me in advance. I rolled my eyes. Says who? Haley opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her face turned red with frustration. Then she grabbed her phone and stormed away. A few minutes later, I heard the balcony door slide open. Haley carried her ring light and tripod outside. She was starting her stream. I waited until she had gone live, then logged into a burner TikTok account. I wanted to see what she would do. Sure enough, Haley had found a solution. A filter on my screen made her hair appear as fiery red waves. She was wearing the same vintage silver masquerade mask as before, hiding every inch of her face. Then the music started. Haley swayed her hips slowly, deliberately playing to the camera. Her voice came through the speakers, sweet and sultry. Hey, boys. If you like what you see, send me a sports car gift. She leaned closer to the camera. The top donor tonight gets access to my private Snapchat. The chat exploded. Oh my God, Summer looks even hotter with red hair. Damn, what a body. I'd love to get a taste of that. That beauty mark on her chest is driving me crazy. Haley smiled behind her mask. Then she danced even harder. Boys, the app just launched some new GIFs. I really want to see how pretty the special effects look. Her bait worked immediately. Virtual GIFs began flooding the screen. Sports cars, diamonds, luxury cars. Colorful animations exploded across the live stream one after another. Haley's excitement was obvious. She kept reading the usernames of her biggest donors aloud, thanking them in that soft, flirtatious voice she had perfected. I stared at the screen. Somewhere in that chat were the people who had ruined my previous life. The man who eventually stabbed me. And the cheating husband whose wife had sent a mob after me. Neither of them knew the woman behind the mask wasn't me. Not yet. I had always been somewhat introverted. Normally, the idea of deliberately putting myself in front of thousands of strangers would have made my stomach twist. But I didn't have the luxury of hiding anymore. If I want to clear my name, I needed proof. And if I wanted to separate myself from Haley, I needed people to see our faces side by side. So, I sent a request to join her live stream from my burner account. Haley immediately declined. I sent another request. She declined again. I kept sending them. Finally, she groaned.
Ugh.
Someone keeps spamming join requests. She glanced at the screen. Hang on, boys. Let me block them real quick. Then a comment appeared. Just accept it. Do a PK battle, and I'll send you a TikTok universe gift. Haley's entire attitude changed. The greed in her eyes was almost comical. Well, she smiled. Since Lucas wants to see it, I guess I can accept the request. Lucas was my friend, and I'd already texted him exactly what to comment. A second later, Haley clicked accept. The screen split into two. Her masked face appeared on one side. My completely bare, unmasked face appeared on the other. For one beautiful second, Haley forgot to breathe. The silence that settled over the split screen was so thick you could hear the subtle hum of Haley's ring light through the stream's audio. On the left sat Haley, red-haired through a cheap digital filter, masked in silver, leaning forward in a position meant to highlight her chest. On the right sat me. My real, fiery red hair framed a face completely uncovered, lit only by the standard fluorescent lights of our dorm room. For 3 seconds, the chat didn't move. Then, like a dam breaking, the comment section exploded into pure chaos. Wait, who is that on the right? Is that a glitch? Why are there two of them? Wait, the girl on the right is actually in the room? Look at the background. It's the same dorm room. Haley's hand shot up to cover her webcam, but her reaction was a fraction of a second too late. Oops, I said, leaning closer to my phone screen with a casual, easy smile. I made sure to tilt my head so the camera caught the clear, clean skin on my chest where my beauty mark used to be. Sorry to interrupt your stream, Haley. I just wanted to ask if you could stop using the red hair filter. I literally just got my hair dyed 2 hours ago, and it feels a little weird that you're trying to digitally match my entire look in real time. The chat went feral. Haley. Her name is Haley. Wait, so the streamer isn't Summer? She's using a filter to fake her hair color to look like her roommate. Haley's face behind the mask flushed deep crimson. Her fingers twitched near her phone. Summer, what are you doing? She hissed under her breath, trying to keep her voice down so her microphone wouldn't pick it up. But Lucas's gift had triggered a high-tier battle mode, automatically boosting the audio sensitivity. And by the way, I continued calmly, everyone watching, my name is Summer. I'm a journalism major. This girl streaming behind the mask is my roommate, Haley. She's been borrowing my clothes and using my name to host these streams because she claims she's too broke to afford her own wardrobe. I paused. Then I smiled. So, if any of you have been sending thousands of dollars thinking you were talking to me, I hate to break it to you, but you've been duped. Haley panicked. She slammed her hand down on her screen and abruptly ended the live stream. The connection was severed. Outside on the balcony, I heard the sharp sound of her tripod collapsing against the concrete. Then came stomping footsteps. A second later, the balcony door crashed open. Haley stood in the doorway. Her mask was ripped off. Her eyes were wide with unadulterated fury. Are you insane? She screamed, her voice cracking. Do you have any idea how much money I was about to make from that PK battle? Lucas was going to send a TikTok universe. That's thousands of dollars. Money you earned by pretending to be me, I replied. My voice remained eerily calm as I stood up from my desk. I picked up a small bottle of rubbing alcohol and a cotton pad. Then, deliberately, I wiped down my immaculate, mark-free chest in full view of her. It's over, Haley. The mask is off. The backlash from that 3-minute broadcast was instantaneous. Within hours, forum threads on campus message boards began appearing. Students who had previously whispered about me in lecture halls, assuming I was the provocative masked streamer, were now replaying clips from the split-screen live stream. The realization spread rapidly through the journalism department. Summer wasn't the streamer. Haley had been using Summer's identity as a disguise. The sudden shift in public perception left Haley completely isolated. When she walked into the cafeteria the next morning, people didn't whisper about her glamour. They laughed at her desperate attempt to mimic me. Even Chloe, who had spent weeks acting as Haley's personal knight in shining armor, was beginning to look uncomfortable. Haley, Chloe said tentatively that afternoon as we all sat in the dorm room. Maybe you should just stream without the mask or use your own name. People are calling you a catfish on the university confessional page. Shut up, Chloe. Haley snapped. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through her tanking view counts. Since the live stream, her biggest donors had gone completely silent. The illusion was shattered. You don't understand anything. If I don't wear the mask, nobody watches. They don't want me. They wanted the mystery. Or rather, they wanted the girl whose real-life credentials Haley had dropped like breadcrumbs to make herself seem reachable. The journalism major with a distinct style and real-world presence. I sat at my desk, quietly drafting an article for the campus newspaper about online impersonation and digital fraud. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The panic rolling off Haley in waves was pure poetry.